quick review that the one characteristic of pseudoscience that we talked about was confusing correlation with causation, or using correlation to establish causation too easily. We used lots of examples with that one, including the dumb global warming one, and basically said that you should be suspicious anytime somebody's trying to immediately leap from correlation, say there's a link between diet soda and diabetes, and causation. Diet soda causes diabetes. It is not necessarily so, and it takes a lot of work to prove. Now, for the rest of the 4 clues in developing your BS detectors. Remember, we're developing bad science detectors so that we can start to have sort of red flags when we encounter pseudoscience. Sensationalism is clue number 2. Do you know what that word means? What is sensationalism? What do you got? Yeah. They're definitely trying to get you to read something or do something, but it's not just you want to know if it's true or not. There's something else with sensationalism. What are they doing? Hyping it up is a good word. I like that. Let me give you some examples and see if you can go further. This is a page in a magazine. There's Popular Science. Warning! The purest filtered or distilled water is more dangerous than cigarettes because the labs know how to test for disease markers in blood, but not in water. It's proprietary. This is serious. Okay? Watch out! Rats running wild in America. Ladybug horror. Tiny insects killing animals and humans. Ooh, here's a different direction. Reindeer really can fly. At least they could 900 years ago, say experts. So, oh wait, one more. Read why big meals can kill you. What do all of these? Ooh, I'll give you one more example. This isn't from here. This is, you've seen it on TV. Like you're watching your favorite show, and then dude's head fills the screen, and he's like, "Deadly radon gas in your basement? We'll have more at 11." Right? Or 10 things in your kitchen that can kill you. Or at 6. What do all of these have in common? How? What are they using? Almost all of those were trying to scare you. They were using fear, right? Using fear to get you to do something, whatever it is. With the water one that I started with, it was a full-page ad. It took me forever to figure out what it was an ad for, but it was an ad for like a $10,000 whole house water filtration system, right? Or they're trying to get you to read, right? Consume their product, which is a magazine or a newspaper. But a lot of times they're trying to get you to buy something, right? Sensationalism just means information designed to excite your emotions. Doesn't have to be fear. Fear is just the easiest. Fear is the one where we're most likely to act because we're like, not my children. It doesn't automatically mean that what you're reading or seeing is not science, but it is a red flag. Generally, scientists and science reporters do not need to be particularly sensationalistic, right? Because their stuff is just true. But yeah, 10 things in your kitchen that can kill you. Are there? Are there 10 things in your kitchen that can kill you? Yeah, totally. But like, don't be an idiot and you're probably okay, right? Like the toaster doesn't go in the dishwater. You're good. Don't have a knife throwing contest, before dinner, and you're good. All right. For the next clue, I want to tell you about a research study that I don't know if you guys know, but I do occasionally dabble in real research. And this was 2 summers ago. I was part of a study with some fellow researchers, and we were studying parenting quality. And so after a couple of months worth of work, we spent most of the summer on it, sort of across Ohio, measuring parenting quality, lots of factors. We established that actually my dad is the best dad in Ohio, even with masks on. I can see you guys kind of starting to go, what? I was with him for a minute. And you're right. Why are you right? What is the main thing that immediately set off your BS detectors? Grant? Well, I don't know. I'm sure you can to an extent. That's not the thing that should have set off your BS detector. What was it, Helen? When you said it was your dad. Well, why that it was my dad? Because you're going to be honest. What word? Say the word again. You're going to be more committed. Now, you said the right word. You said it. It's a B word. Yeah, I'm biased. Of course I want my dad to be the best dad. He's my dad. It's like, kudos to me, right? Because if he's best dad, I'm probably at least top 5 sons. I really want that to be true. So you can't trust any research coming from me that says that it is. Right? I don't think there's any amount of safeguarding and double blind testing that can validate somebody who proves that their dad is the best dad. That's obviously an extreme example, right? Real science, it's trickier. Real science, what it really comes down to is science costs money. Somebody always has to pay for research, right? You have to hire people, you have to have materials, you have to maybe even hire test subjects. And that money comes from somewhere. And so the easiest trick to find bias in science, follow the money. Find out where it comes from. Sometimes it's hard to find the money. You can usually, with enough digging, you can find it. We've talked about that there's a correlation between artificial sweetener and diabetes. And there is. And if you read an article that said that they've established a causative link, that they are starting to actually prove that artificial sweeteners cause metabolic problems like that, you might be inclined to believe it. But you better find out where the money for that study came from. Because if that money came from, say, the Domino cane sugar company, you ought to have that same feeling that you did when I said my dad was the best dad. Why? Tyler? Not Domino. They're producing real sugar. Those, Domino sugar executives go to sleep at night dreaming that there's a study like that, right? Because they're direct competitors of NutraSweet and Sucralose and all those companies. So they would love it if real sugar caused anything bad. Here's an example about when I was a new teacher. I went to a teacher conference in Philadelphia, and there's this place in conferences where you go around and there's all these companies selling stuff and they give you free things and it's fun. But there was this one booth I couldn't figure out. The booth was run by the Greening Earth Society, they called themselves. And they had all these very professional looking pamphlets and things, State of the Climate Report and the CO2 issue. And I started looking through them, and it took me a while, but what they're arguing is that since carbon dioxide is what plants need to make sugar, that we should burn all the fossil fuels we want because it'll make the earth greener. It'll make plants grow better. And I thought, why? What reason would they have to be saying that It took forever to find it. I don't even know if I remember where it was, but the money for this whole organization comes from. What do you think? You want to guess? There it is. Western Fuels Association Incorporated, which is like some of the biggest oil companies on the planet, in partnership with the National Mining Association, which is like coal and natural gas miners. Yeah, of course they want you to believe that, right? It's bias. So that's bias. Follow the money. Another real life example that is a real problem for us right now. Who's supposed to test new drugs for side effects and for effectiveness? Do you know the name of the organization? The FDA, good, Food and Drug Administration. In practice, though, as of recent years, there's so many thousands of new drugs flooding the market because it's, we're a very medicated people here, that they don't have the funding or the personnel to test them themselves. So guess who gets to do it? It is the companies that make them that get to test them. And some of them, I'm sure, do a great job and hire outside people to test it and do a great job, but not all of them. Welcome back. Triumphant return. And stuff slips through the cracks, absolutely. And then a couple of years later is when you start hearing the ads from lawyers saying, did you take Celebrex? Did you develop a brain cancer or whatever? Call the lawyers of blah, 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 right? That's the result of inadequate testing and potentially biased research. Questions so far? 2 down, 2 to go. All right. This one's easy. Nothing kills the validity of a study like small sample size. You don't just test 5 people. You don't just jump once in your new sneakers and once in your old sneakers. Most of you figured that out on the homework. It's the one thing science and weightlifting have in common. It's all about reps, absolutely. They even call them that. And you will catch this one yourself. And you'll read, internet news or newspaper news that'll say, in a study of, and it'll say something like, in a study of 21 individuals in California, and you immediately ought to be like, that doesn't sound like enough people. And there is math you can do. There's statistical tests you can do that can say that a test that is a smaller sample size are valid, and that can go somewhat towards kind of fixing that. But man, big is better. All right, last one. I just want to ask, how many of you know where you would need to go to find a scientific study? Like the real one that the scientists themselves wrote. Where do you find those? Where do they get published? Because they do get published, yeah.
In like a scientific journal.
Very good. How do you know that?
I saw on TV.
Nice. They're called scientific journals. They're basically magazines. They're basically like really specific science magazines. And they have names like the Journal of Forensic Microbiology or the Journal of Physiological Entomology. Like really specific fields. And when you do research, you basically look for what you think is the right journal to publish it in. And you spend months and months on your paper, and you collaborate with your research mates. And then when you think you've got it perfect, you send it to them, and then they do something terrifying with it. These, by the way, are called peer-reviewed scientific journals. I wasn't lying. I have actually done some real research. It was a while ago, and it wasn't on parenting. It was on bugs. It was on the little wingless flies that live in Antarctica, believe it or not, that can survive incredibly bad conditions. And we did write a few papers. And we spent months on them, and it was hard. That was not the fun part. And then we got them written, and they were our babies, and we sent them off to the proceedings of the National Academies of Sciences and to the Journal of, I don't remember, 2 or 3 different journals. And what did they do with them after that? Chance, do you know that part?
I don't think so.
Oh, it sucks. They take your paper and they make 3 copies of it, and they find the most well-known experts in your field that they can find, and they send your paper to them. And they go, what do you think of this? And part of being a real scientist, part of your job, it's just kind of understood. You get to a certain point in your field, part of your job is to read other people's work and tell scientific journals whether it's worth anything or not. And so they report back and say, yeah, it looks good. Yeah, they did good work. I've seen this stuff before. It's consistent with what they've done before. Their methods are good. Yep, green light. Or, there's some things I'm not sure about. Please communicate with them about this, this, and this, and I need to hear more before I would approve this. Or, nope, it's garbage. You know, they're obviously got flawed research methods. They didn't do a double blind for this and stuff like that. That's the process, and it can be really nerve-wracking while you wait to hear from this publisher. So that's kind of a window into what real scientists do. The point of this is, if you read about science and they don't reference the journal it was published in, red flag. BS detector should be beeping, right? That is one of the primary safety nets that catches bad science early. Peer review. You got to submit to a journal, and that journal has to clear it with 3 other people before it becomes published and considered part of the main body of scientific literature. It's a safety net. Keeps bad science from getting through. Did you have a question? Yeah, they did. They did get published. I was not the primary author on those studies, which means I wasn't the one calling all the shots. I kind of just did the work and communicated back home. So I was in Antarctica. I was part of the sort of communicate with my students and outreach and stuff like that. But it was fun. Does bad science sometimes slip through the net? Yeah. And usually they're able to catch it and retract it, but sometimes the damage is done. Good example is a paper published by a guy named Andrew Wakefield in a famous British journal called The Lancet. It's a medical journal. It's like their version of the New England Journal of Medicine, linking certain, I think it was the MMR vaccine to autism in children. Soon after that, that study was debunked, and it was found that he had terrible research methods, and it was not a valid study, and they retracted it, and they published a thing saying this was not a good study, but as you know, the damage was done. So pseudoscience can be dangerous. Questions? Okay, so we are close to the end here. The only thing left is we're going to talk about the characteristics of living things to kind of bridge the gap to biology. But for today, what your assignment is going to be is something I told you about, which is a kind of review we do for tests. It is the sample essay questions, where basically you get essay questions that are kind of like what you're going to get on the test so that you can practice answering them. Okay? It is homework. It will be graded, okay? But it is also kind of a gift. It's kind of a sneak peek to the test. So not only do you have to do it for a grade, but it's going to help you do better on the test, I promise. It'll be due, we'll give you some time, it'll be due the day after tomorrow, which is Wednesday. You know, please take it seriously. You'll get out of it kind of what you put into it. I know you've heard that before. It sounds weird, but true. You just give one-word answers. First of all, not going to get all points, and second of all, you won't